Good evening, everybody. At this time, I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting of Lake Forest, and this will open public session. At this time, the City Council will convene to consider public matters. Madam Clerk, the invocation will be led by the Reverend Dr. Thomas Rogers from Abiding Savior Lutheran Church. Abiding Savior Lutheran Church is celebrating its 50-year anniversary as a church of Lake Forest, formerly El Toro, and Pastor Rogers has been pastor there for 25 years.
Thank you, sir. Shall we pray?
Yes, sir.
Heavenly Father, as we come to the end of this day, we first thank you for all the blessings that you've showered out upon us, especially as a city. Thanks to your good hand, O Lord, in this place people can find employment. In this place people can be educated. In this place folks can find opportunities for recreation. Help us always remember that these are gifts from you upon people that you love. Now, grant us a wisdom that comes not from within, but from on high this night. May all discussions and conversation be done with a love that befits brothers and sisters, and may everything decided here be a blessing to your people and bring glory to your name. For we ask it all in the strong name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. And thank you for your contribution in helping our city be a shining city on a hill. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, at this time, the Pledge of Allegiance of our great country, and I want to thank and really thank the Marine Corps that's here, but the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilman Robinson, but we see the Boy Scouts in the back there. If Troop 727 would come forward and lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance, we'd be honored.
Those in uniform, please salute. Those not in uniform, right hand over your heart. Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two.
Thank you. You know, I often marvel at and think about what our nation would be like. I fear to think of what it would really be like without the Boy Scouts of America. So thank you, guys. Madam Clerk, closed session. The City Attorney, do we have anything to report?
Mr. Mayor, council members, there's one item of action to report. The council took action to retain Best and Krieger and confirm Matthew Richardson as the city attorney for the city of Lake Forest. There's nothing further.
Congratulations, Mel. Everybody, Mel Richardson is our city attorney and does a fine job for the city of Lake Forest, and so we're very blessed to have him. So thank you, Mel, for the job you do for us. At this time, we have presentations.
Make a motion to approve presentations.
I'll second.
All in favor?
That motion carried unanimously.
And what would be first? Go ahead.
Agenda item 3, recognition of the 2015 parade volunteers, sponsors, and award winners, submitted by Director of Community Services.
And I want to say that our staff, Ron Rivera and staff, does a wonderful job with our parade, and it's renowned throughout Orange County as such a wonderful parade. But you know, Lake Forest, we're really geographically blessed here, right at the 405 and 5Y. But the fact is, the greatest thing about our city is our volunteers. We have a great community, and whether it be Kiwanis or the Lake Forest Parade Committee, our traffic ad hoc, our citizens are what makes Lake Forest such a great place. And so with that, I'd like to, Ron, if you'd like to come forward. Thank you, Ron. Ron is our lead person for the city of Lake Forest, not only with our parade, but with our holiday haunted house at Heritage Hill, or our glow stick party at Heritage Hill, or many of the activities that we have, our concert series. It's all Ron Rivera. So I'm saying that we're blessed as a community because of our residents, but we have great employees too. So Ron, if you want to say anything, thank you for all you do for our city.
Don't forget the dinosaurs either.
Just want to say, first off, thank you guys so much for coming out today. Today really is going to be a day of commendation and celebration of our 4th of July parade. It's a parade that's filled. It's a hometown parade. It's been a parade like this since 1991, and will continue to be a hometown parade celebrating life in Lake Forest, celebrating life in America, and really just celebrating volunteerism and a fun-filled family day for everyone. It's been a privilege to be on the parade committee now for my 9th parade, and we continue going on every single year. Our theme this year, Celebrate Life in Lake Forest Sports Town, USA, and we will now commence with our presentation of commendations for volunteerism. So, first up, I'd like to invite up Noma Bates. Yes, right there. Marty Deutschman. Robbie Deutschman. Myron Drinkwater. Dr. Jim Gardner. Martha Halverson. Sharon Hansen. John Irish. Rosalie Irish. Rick Lancaster. Margie Matzel. Doris Neal. Rosa Patterson. Elaine Pong. Thank you. Matt Rail. Cheryl Riccardi. Ray Silva. Sheila Smith. Lisa Tooley. John Wilson. Sybil Wilson. Yambo. Ladies and gentlemen, our 2015 4th of July Parade Committee.
I'm taking the whole business one. I think you should be in front of him. I know, right?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more.
And now you know why our parade is so special.
This group that was up here just now is only a small microcosm of what it takes to put this parade together. We rely heavily on a lot of other organizations, starting with Tom Wheeler. Where's Tom Wheeler? Oh, there's the virtual Tom Wheeler there, and his public works people who set out the road closures for us. Lieutenant Valentine and his deputies who enforce those road closures for us. And naturally, Scott Wasserman in the background with the entire community services group that work with us. But even with all that power, it wouldn't really happen as well as it does without the vision and the energy of our head cheerleader, Ron Rivera.
Thank you, John. It's definitely a team effort. We are privileged to have a great city staff and a great city council to support us, and it's a privilege to serve our city as a volunteer and as an employee, but it's also a privilege to work with our great volunteer committee. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys so much. We're up to our 25th year next year, which will be called Red, White, Blue, and 25-2. 25 years of cityhood and 25 years of the parade. Great. So we have a couple groups we'd like to honor. First off, I'd like to bring up an esteemed group from Lake Forest, the Lake Forest Kiwanis. Come on up.
Nice to work.
I know.
Certificate.
Yeah, she has it. She gives you, take a picture? Yeah. The Lake Forest Kiwanis serve Lake Forest youth. They have a pancake breakfast with all the fun serving Lake Forest youth and the contributions throughout the year. So today we're going to honor the Lake Forest Kiwanis. Let's hear it for them.
Let's get better.
I'd like to make a mayor's change here. So while all the Kiwanis here, Kiwanis is actually celebrating their 100-year anniversary this year, and we have a special presentation from them. The Lake Forest Kiwanis, been here for 21 years. Kiwanis International is celebrating their 100-year anniversary. And so let me just say some of the things that they do here. They actually, nationally and worldwide, their mission is to change the world one child, one community at a time is their motto. They actually have taken it upon themselves to make a strong and bold thing to eradicate prenatal tetanus. And they've raised, worldwide, they've raised over $100 million in that effort to eradicate the world of prenatal tetanus. And so on behalf of the City of Lake Forest, I want to say thank you for all they do for the world, but all they do for the City of Lake Forest. They volunteer at our summer and December holiday food drives in the community projects. Kiwanis has a one-day service project where their members go out and help us clean our creek beds or clean our roadsides. They are the ones that are selling hamburgers at our Snowfest fundraiser. They have a fundraiser, Fun in the Snow. They have a Bunny Blast fundraiser, a day of fun at Carnival Day. Annual 4th of July Firecracker 5K. They do the pancake breakfast there. They support the Lake Forest High School Key Club. And they, I think they have, this not on here, but they actually give two scholarships away annually to students from El Toro High School. They raise the money, they have a grant system, and they pick some students out of El Toro High School and actually give them grant services for that. They've helped our Lake Forest Boys and Girls Club get off the ground. I don't know if any of you are aware, but we actually have a Boys and Girls Club in Lake Forest thanks to people like Terry Anderson, Dave Carter, and the Kiwanis. And so, and that is actually at Abiding Savior Lutheran Church, Pastor Rogers' church. And so, on the behalf of the City of Lake Forest, I'd like to congratulate them, and I have a special presentation from Congresswoman Mimi Walters in honor of International Kiwanis 100th anniversary. So, on behalf of the City of Lake Forest and my special privilege and honor to be presenting this on behalf of the Congress of the United States, I'd like to say thank you all for all that you do. Thank you. As you see, they're a very busy bunch of people.
Obviously, when you bring over 10,000 people together to watch a parade and over 1,500 people in the parade, safety and security of our residents is of utmost importance for the City of Lake Forest. So at this time, we'd like to thank the following Orange County Sheriff departments: the Lake Forest Explorers Post 449, Lake Forest Police Services, and the Lake Forest Stars. We also like to thank our OCFA Fire Station number 19, Orange County Fire Department. And not here tonight is also the Jurassic Park Motor Pool, who celebrates our 4th of July parade as well every year and volunteers them. So thank you to them. We also like to thank our sponsors. We have a huge parade, and we have some sponsors come on board every year to help us out. And first off, we'd like to thank CR&R. Thank you so much for coming out. Come on up. Thank you so much. Another great sponsor, Care Ambulance.
You know, everybody, CARE is our new ambulance provider. It used to be doctors. Many of you might have not seen the difference because they had the same color rigs, but CARE has been doing an outstanding job in their transition. So welcome to Lake Forest, CARE.
Another sponsor, a great new sponsor, Autism Behavior Services. Come on up. As some of you may know, along the parade route, we have some incredibly funny, talented, handsome parade announcers out there. And I'd like to recognize a couple right now, including Marty Deutschman and Robbie Deutschman. Our other parade announcers, Peter Albini, Michael Varma, and Lyde Weidman, could not be here today, but they're part of that great announcing team. Thank you guys so much. The City of Lake Forest 4th of July Parade has 24 years of history. It dates back to when the city was first founded as the first event ever planned by the Activities Committee of Lake Forest. We have many, many veterans who are on our parade committee who have served us for many years. And tonight we'll recognize one with 10 years of service, and her name is Lisa Tooley. Congratulations. Okay, so now the moment you've all been waiting for, I'd like to invite our parade judges to announce this year's winners. This year, our winners are not only getting an award, they're also getting a certificate of recognition from Congressman Mimi Walters as well. So it's a big day. We've got to get started.
Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. It is our privilege to announce the winners of this year's parade. The Mayor's Award went to Lake Forest Little League.
And because of the theme of the City of Lake Forest Parade this year, I thought it was appropriate, because of the enthusiasm of our young athletes on the parade route from Lake Forest Little League, Sportstown USA. So on behalf of the city, thank you guys for being here.
Our next award is the Most Original Award, and that went to Creative Kids Playhouse Children's Theater of Orange County. The next award is the Best Theme Award, and that went to Freedom Village.
Don't you sit down on me. Guys, congratulations. Thank you so much. Come over here. We get a picture for Freedom Village. Come over behind you.
For a second, I thought they were from Legion.
There you go. Come here. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
The next award is Best Commercial Award, and that went to Southside Towing. Thank you. The Best of Lake Forest Award went to Lake Forest Senior Scene Clubhouse.
Everyone back up. Everyone back up. Everyone back up. So you can get right from here. Here you go. Hold. Thank you, guys.
The Best of Lake Forest Award went to the 4th of July Parade Committee.
As chair for the float, I'd like to thank everyone who contributed all their time in putting the float together this year. There's a special thank you that really goes out to the Case family. They did a wonderful job, and they are back in South Carolina. So, again, thank you.
The Best Civic Award went to Amigos de la Colina.
Thank you, guys.
The Best Community Outreach Award went to Boy Scout Troop 727.
Thank you, guys. You did a great job with the pledge. Thank you. Hey, tight it and tight nice. It's all good, that. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, guys.
The Most Creative Award went to the Sousa family. The Best Sports Theme Award went to Etney Skate Park of Lake Forest. The Best Spirit Award went to Grace Community Church and Grace Christian Schools. Best Musical Unit went to El Toro High School Royal Blue Regiment. Let's see. The Best Vehicle Award went to the Slingshot Patriot. The Most Patriotic Award went to 1st Law Enforcement Battalion, USMC. The next entry, there were 2 entries that we wanted to recognize, and this was for Best Animal Award, the Best Entry Animal Award, and that's for Mini Madness Miniature Therapy Horses and the German Shepherd Rescue of OC. The next award is the Best Band on a Truck, and this goes to Ripple Effect. And the last award, which is the Sandy Mink Award, went to Faro Church.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, I'd like to thank our City Council, our City Administration staff, all our volunteers, all the 4th of July entry participants, and all the spectators for giving us another great 4th of July Lake Forest Sports Town USA. We invite you all back July 4th, 2016 for Red, White, and Blue and 25-2. Thank you so much.
And thank you for Lake Forest staff. Thank you, Ron. And with that, we're going to get a 5-minute break to everybody, a 5-minute recess. Thank you so much.
That was awesome.
Pretty fatal traffic here, massively. We just put him on in the backyard because we finished it all the very last work today. And he sent this just now.
Oh, that's awesome.
So with the caption.
They just landed. That is awesome.
Because she was beheaded in the construction. She actually got knocked off.
The statue.
The statue itself. No. She was beheaded during the construction, and a friend of ours he did a lot of repair, and then he painted her white and everything. So yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for you. So my kids were seeing, just messing around, they were seeing Autism. And my 11-year-old daughter said, that means like Saint Mary. I'm like, no, that's Santa Maria.
Yeah.
What is Ave?
Hail. Yeah, Ave.
Oh, Dave Carter? Sorry.
Wow. council. If I could please call council back to dais. Thank you, and like I said, we're geographically blessed, but what makes Lake Forest so special is the people. So I'd like to reconvene the meeting, and so, Madam Clerk.
The next item is public comments. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. No action may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and an overall time limit of 30 minutes for the public comments portion of the agenda. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter, whether or not it appears on the agenda, is requested to complete a request to speak form available at the side door. The completed form should be submitted to the City Clerk prior to an individual being heard by the Council. When you are called to speak, you'll see 3 lights, the first being green. When you have 30 seconds left, the light will turn to yellow, and when your time has expired, the light will turn to red and you will hear a buzzer. At that time, your public comment period has ended, and the Council requests that you save any further general comments for a future meeting. With that, the first speaker is Terry Anderson, followed by Nick Chambers.
Gentlemen, you're going to get us both at once.
Good evening.
I'm Terry Anderson, Lake Forest. Nick Chambers, Lake Forest. Actually, I guess you're saying somebody now, aren't you? Yeah. Anyway, we're here to talk to you tonight about the Boys and Girls Club. You all know that the Boys and Girls Club is off to a very great start here in our community. But it is a difficult thing to get going, and we're all learning very quickly that it's a very expensive thing to try and fund. Nonprofit is not inexpensive. And so many of you know that last year we created an event, a fundraising event called Tour del Toro, which we held at our brand new sports park, and it's our plan to hold it there again this year, and every year on infinitum until you tell us to stop, and then we'll just move it to another community. So the idea always has been to do a running event and a riding event to raise money for the Boys and Girls Club. And it was a very successful event last year for the first time. It was profitable, which was amazing to us. You got a spider coming down there, right, gentlemen? Just thought I'd let you know. Jim, is that your friend? Okay. But one thing that we did recognize in last year's event was that we felt that we were out there a little bit running in the breeze, a little bit alone. And one thing that we felt that would have been a great thing to have added to the event would have been some city participation. It was great that we got to use the venue and make it a part of our community, and I think as the Boys and Girls Club continues to grow, we will all incorporate it as just something we've always had once that happens. So, of all of our events, we were able to get the Sheriff's Department to come out last year and run our bicycle safety rodeo, which went off exactly the way we hoped it would do, by having men in uniforms out there teaching the kids, and actually the Stars ran the program for us, which was perfect. The kids really respected and had a great time learning the rules of the road of how that all went. So what Nick and I are here to talk to you about this year is we were kind of hoping that this would be the signature event that we could kind of draw the city more directly into the program in a sponsorship way. The Kids Rodeo is a small event, but it's a very necessary event to reach out to the kids, and we think that it's a way that the city can talk directly to our children. Because it's all geared toward the youngest children in our community. So what we're really here to suggest that you take under advisement, because we know you can't do anything tonight, would be to act as a sponsor for us of the Bicycle Kids Rodeo. The City of Lake Forest sponsors that. It automatically makes you a gold sponsor in our sponsorship level. But more importantly, what it does is it brings the city together with us in this goal to bring the Boys and Girls Club to fruition. And it also obviously helps us with some of our expenditures too, by having the sheriff out there to run the event. But that would be basically the thing that we're here to ask you to consider for a future meeting. Again, our event is on November 7th, so hopefully you could maybe get together in fairly short order, because we'd like to put your name on our bicycle jerseys, and we have a deadline in about 10 days before we go to press on bike jerseys. So, Nick, anything you would like to add about how well the event went last year with the kids in particular?
Sure. City Council, thank you for letting us speak. Last year was the first event, and it went off as well as we could have hoped. Got a little hot at the end of the day, but we couldn't really control that. Terry is right. The bicycle rodeo was kind of that was my main goal of the Tour del Toro, and just having the ability to show the kids that police can be our friends and that they can be friendly. You know, they can teach you exactly what one needs to know when they're on a bicycle or a skateboard or any kind of scooter. So it was very nice having the police out, having stars out, and then also stars participation actually around the route helped keep the safety of the runners and some of the bicycles that were still in Lake Forest. So we would love more of their help with this upcoming event in November, and we would love for you to please think about being one of the gold sponsors for the Tour del Toro and the Boys and Girls Club, please.
Thank you, guys. And thank you for what you guys do. And we'll bring this up at the end of the meeting and maybe bring for future agenda.
We appreciate that.
Just,
Thank you, guys.
Just real quickly, Mr.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
You said you would like to put our names where? I didn't get that part.
Well, if you were to act as the sponsor of the Kids Rodeo, you would become one of our noted sponsors. So you'd be in all of our programs, you'd be on the banners, you'd be on the bike rodeo, on the bicycle jersey, and the way and the T-shirt that all the runners get. There's like 1,000 T-shirts.
I'm all there. The only thing is, I don't really have to get on a bicycle, do I? I mean,
no.
I have a bad.
I'm not going to make you, but we would certainly encourage every one of you to participate, as I know some of those faces participated last year. Not
Okay.
naming names.
Well, thank you. And at the end of the meeting, we'll bring this up for a future agenda.
I'm there. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Tracy Tingley, followed by David Hertzberg.
Good evening. My name's Tracy Tingley, and I'm a resident of Foothill Ranch since 1996. Just as a refresher, for those of you who were not here at the last minute, I commented, Mr. Mayor, on your hijacking of the July 21st council meeting. You took advantage of your power of mayor and suddenly rearranged the agenda to suit your needs and went on a diatribe about Mr. Nix and your sign. You were all too happy to point fingers. However, if I stated in my comments, your signs were posted illegally all over town during the election. You were even cited in the Lake Forest Patch on September 19th for posting signs prior to the allowable date. You had signs posted legally all around towns. I have pictures of the signs that I can share. One of your signs is still up today in the Home Depot parking lot on Lake Forest Drive, illegally posted on a post.
It must be out of my reach.
Well, it's your responsibility as the candidate to ensure that your team is following the rules, and clearly, rules don't mean anything to you. In the Patch article, it also stated that you were falsely claiming you were the mayor of Lake Forest while trying to solicit contributions. You were not a mayor at the time, but a white lie never hurt anybody, did it? Meanwhile, you go on a diatribe with someone else who's trying to clean up your signs that are legally posted all over the place. Since then, you've knowingly provided incorrect information to a Voice of OC reporter. In an August 12th article that I've got here, you suggested that Mr. Nix provided cash to a former GOP chairman, Scott Baugh, as a bribe. According to Mr. Baugh, that's absolutely not true, and you knew it wasn't true. Mr. Nix offered to pay Mr. Baugh for consulting services and was turned down. According to Mr. Baugh himself, he did not see it as a bribe and was offended that you had suggested it was a bribe.
Never said that.
If that was not bad enough, you still distributed misleading negative article at a seniors recognition meeting. During the July 21st council meeting, when confronted about wearing a wire to entrap your fellow councilman, you stated, yeah, I quote, "I never wore a wire." That same Voice of OC article was updated and stated in a phone interview after the article was published. You, in fact, did wear a wire during the meeting with Mr. Nix, just as Mr. Nix stated on the dais. You lied on the dais, plain and simple. A number of residents have come up here pleading you play nice, but that means nothing to you since these requests have continued. You've continued to lie and mislead people for the sole purpose of discrediting a fellow councilman. Your words mean nothing anymore. What other lies are you going to tell from the dais? You're not fit to be our mayor. You're not fit to be a council member. It's time for you to resign so we can start repairing the council and the image of Lake Forest. Thank you.
David Hertzberg, followed by Carolyn Callum.
Hi, I'm David Hertzberg. In November, I'll be 25 years in Portola Hills. And you guys can relax because I'm not talking to you tonight. I'm talking to staff. We're 8 months at the bottom of the hill, 2 months at the middle and upper reaches of Portola Hills. After something like 16 planning sessions and traffic meetings and everything, something good is happening in Portola Hills. And I'm here to thank city staff. And I also, if they're still here, Dave Carter and Terry Anderson, who were two of the best planning commissioners this city ever had, were highly involved in helping us get to this point. But I'm really here to thank you. Things are going well. Things are going well. Isn't that amazing? After the process we went through. I want to thank Douglas Erdman for his direction on the current traffic calming, which is working. None of us knew what pork chops were. None of us knew what bump outs were. We all are now beginning to see the fruit of that labor. People on Malabar and Millwood can come out and not be killed anymore. It's really, really nice. And so the amazing Joe, and I forgot his last name, traffic engineer, he was the most brilliant. His company is doing amazing things. And so I'm just really here to say thank you, because many times, as you remember, I could be a thorn in the side. But we got through the process, and I just really appreciate all the effort that's gone into it. A few things specifically for you. I was at the school today. Things are going so well at the school in the sense of it's not perfect. That school never should have been there. But traffic is flowing better. And people are forgetting that 25-mile-per-hour speed limit should be enforced. You may actually want to have a motor officer stop by just as a presence, and people are parking in the wrong spots. But mostly this is a thank you, and kudos to everybody involved. And amazingly, at the bottom of the hill, before I get done here, things are going well with the Baldwin brothers, which is something I never thought I would say. So anyway, it's going very smooth. They are honoring everything that they said they would. And if you hear flack, there are people on social media that just like to complain. But it's going well up there. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to hear a positive response, and our staff does a marvelous job.
Carolyn Callum, followed by Dr. Cynthia Matthews.
Yes, I'm Carolyn Callum, and I have a handout for you to see. It's regarding Tamarisk Park. I wanted to give you an update on what's going on. I'm actually here on behalf of the homeowners in San Remo Villas to thank Public Works, Doug Ergman and Tom Wheeler for all their efforts on doing a feasibility study for the ADA access walkway. And you'll see the results on the page 2 on the Onward Engineering. They came back with their feasibility study. Actually came in under budget. The budget was $150,000, came back in at $141,797. We're thrilled about the homeowners really wanted to have the walkway at the far end of the park, and that's what came back on the feasibility study. So I just wanted to update you on the dates. I'm supposed to actually start construction in January 2016. And the last page you'll see is the one preferred by homeowners for the walkway, and that's where it looks like where it's going to be. So we just really wanted to thank Public Works for all their hard efforts on this, and we really appreciate it. It's a win-win situation here.
We need to thank you guys for bringing it to our attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Cynthia Matthews, followed by Randy Johnson.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, staff, for having me here once again. My name is Dr. Cynthia Matthews. And although I do not reside here in City of Lake Forest, I do reside in Southern California, so this, although doesn't affect me directly, it does indirectly, as anything that happens in the multitudes of cities that are unconstitutional, and this is ridiculous. You know, it's very interesting because I heard what you said to Tracy when she had indicated that you had a conversation with the Voice of OC reporter, who is Adam Elmerick, and if anybody would care to have copies of those, I'd love to send you the link. And you know what was very interesting is that you claim all this stuff about, you know, money's going here and there, and that Nick wanted to offer you bribes and that you didn't accept it, the quid pro quos that you deny. And yet it's very interesting because for my client and I, you did wheel out there and there was a conversation. And after we told you that we were not interested in any type of a quid pro quo, you became very angry and his license was denied. And so, of course, that was probably a lie, too, right? And it's very interesting, too, that you claimed that you didn't wear a wire, but you did wear a wire. You had to recant that. This Mission Impossible mission that you had to take on and, you know, and go and try and snag him for trying to steal signs is very interesting. It's also a waste of city money and a waste of city time. And it does affect the cities surrounding because you're wasting the DA's time. And what's very interesting is when we have other issues that need to be taken care of with cities, and as a business consultant, to have constantly this negative thing and stupid clandestine things that you're doing doesn't help this city. In fact, what it does is it brings negative attention to the city. Now, what's very interesting, and I have the letter that Scott Baugh sent to the city here, directed to you, about the fact, because you said, oh, it wasn't true, I never had, or told him about Scott Baugh. I've got the email right here, and I got it actually when I requested it from the city clerk, and it states here that there was no bribe. There was a witness there, and no bribe indicated. The very thing that you need to do as the city council mayor is to get back on track, bring the city back into order, and stop the infighting. The display, the candid display that you had the 2 meetings ago, where you just stopped the meeting and you were just in this tirade, and then you ran out there, you know, oh, I'm sick, but you ended up staying almost to the end of the meeting, and then you berate another city council member from another city and told her that, you know, this is ridiculous, that you're blaming her for some incident. You know, this is interesting. This is one thing.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Randy Johnson, followed by Heiko Peschel.
Good evening, Council. Long time no see. Hope you enjoyed your time off. Randy Johnson from Lake Forest. You know, before I came to the meeting tonight at home, I watched the replay of the Board of Supervisors meeting today, the certain segment that had to do with the Board of Supervisors' response to the grand jury reports. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Councilman Gardner for appearing at the meeting and actually speaking. And he made some very, very valid points. I would encourage all of you to watch that video. And, you know, I expected from the Board of Supervisors basically what I got, a lot of talk and no action. That's the way it's been for 20-odd years, and I didn't expect anything different, so I'm never disappointed. Supervisor Bartlett from the 5th District, let me quote some of the things she says. She says, it's not perfect, but we've made great strides. Where exactly have they made great strides? It's gotten progressively worse. I have no idea what she's talking about. She's saying, we're doing everything we can. We care. Please be patient. What is it? I mean, we've been patient for 20-odd years, and she's telling us to be patient? See, the leadership here is, I've lost confidence in the leadership of the Board of Supervisors because of things like this. I listen to these statements, and they don't make any real sense to me. All they are is words, you know, and I don't see any action whatsoever. And as far as deadlines are concerned, maybe it's time for Lake Forest to set some deadlines here and say, do this by this date, or we're going to form our own agency. We've had it with you folks. You know, this has been going on way too long, and we deserve much more as dog owners and citizens of Lake Forest. Steve Franks, the guy that heads the Orange County Community Resources, he's no better. You know, he agrees that the shelter needs to be replaced. Come on, that's old news, you know. The Navy needs to release the property. They're always blaming the Navy. They're never doing anything. They're pointing fingers at the Navy. He said he's drafted a business plan. So what's in this business plan? Again, more words. Where's the action? Also, he says we need a long-term commitment from the cities. How does he expect the cities to make a long-term commitment when there's so much disarray at the Orange County Animal Care? How does he expect long-term commitments from us? That's just ridiculous. They've got to prove that they've earned our business like any other business. And they just haven't done it, and they continue to just mouth words that are meaningless. So hopefully somebody here is going to take leadership role here and actually do something about this and precipitate some action so we can get something done. Hopefully there's going to be a meeting here in the not-too-distant future about this. Lastly, I want to thank Councilman Nick. Recently I submitted an email about some...
You can bring it back to the next one.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Nick, for all your action in helping me. All right.
Heiko Peschel, followed by Leo Valencia.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council people, and everybody else here. First of all, I'd like to, for those of you who haven't heard already, the fact that Marcia Rudolph passed away this past week after having been ill for a while. Regretfully, I'd like to give my regrets to her family. She spent a lot of time on the council here and did a lot of hard work. You may not have always agreed with her, but she always had a point. Anyway, I'm here to talk about Foothill Ranch, but slightly differently. Melrose, I have been in touch with Lisa Bartlett's office. She has promised to work with you guys and with our homeowners association to do something about that Melrose. In my opinion, having looked at the requirements, I think we've met the requirements. It was nice of you to put a police station up there because that has helped us, because now you won't put a substation in Foothill Ranch. There's no chance of that happening. Secondly, the trash hauling. Why is it the extreme ends of the city do their hauling first thing in the morning before half the folks are on their way to work? If they delayed our trash pickup on a Monday morning from 7:30 to 9:30, they would have a lot more area where they could, goofing, not the trash hauling, the trash is fine, the street cleaning, my mistake. The street cleaning comes in at 7:30 on a Monday morning. Most people in our part of the world, they're not off to work yet. They don't leave work till it's somewhere between 8 and 9. Now, I have mentioned this before, and I think it's doable. I think we can switch around and say do the industrial commercial areas early in the morning and the residential areas a little later. Third item, now that we do have the new substation up there, it would be nice if we had a little bit more traffic policing up there. We have recently lowered the speed limits in Foothill Ranch, or you have, but it hasn't slowed any of the drivers down. They're still going the same speed they were. And by the way, thank you, Mr. Hamilton, for the post on Marcia. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leo Valencia.
My name's Leo Valencia, and I've been a resident for 38 years. I spent 40 years in Mobile. I used to commute from here to downtown LA, 612 South Flower Street. We didn't have the traffic, the congestions we have today. And I know all three of you know pockets of these developers. In Lake 2, we're referring to you, and you as the Three Stooges. And next time we're going to get together and force and make sure that we get you. The only two individuals that are doing their job is Adam Nick and Jim Gardner. And we got rid of one of your stooges last time. And anyway, things aren't going really good. Not for you three. Now I'm here about El Toro Memorial Park, the cemetery. We have our daughter buried there, and we have 4 plots. Now, for 2.5 years, we've been telling management there, look, you got fire ants, and they're dug in. And we go to our plot, as soon as we put water in it, boom, they all come. And we've been complaining, and what happens, the termite people come over, I'm sorry, the fire ant people come over, and all they do is spray the whole park. They got to put bait to get those, they're like 4 or 5 feet underground. And I talked to Marcia Rudolph, that was like talking to the wall. Well, I'm sorry, she's gone soon. But anyway, that is a big concern. And the water shortage, I mean, you three are still advocating. I hear in November and December that you're going to approve new buildings. There's new tracks coming up. Well, Scott, you should know. I mean, you take the money from them. I mean, you're in their pockets, all three of you. Don't give me that silly grin, because I still remember our son that lives in Vienna, Austria. He's got his doctor's degree, and he used to help you at Lake Forest too to get that machine. And I told him, he says, how's Scott Voigt doing? I say, he's mayor. Oh, good for him. And I told him how you're under the pockets of these developers, and he was just heartbroken. He says, I can't believe it. The man can live with himself. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Bob Holtzclaw?
We're not going to have any response right now. Thank you.
Actually, Mayor, point of order, Mr. City Attorney, point of order. And yes, and that is, Mr. Woods does not know this perhaps, the state law allows me to briefly respond if someone makes a question of the council. The state does allow me to make a brief response to that. That is not subject to an overrule by a selected mayor, not elected, and that is not subject to a majority vote, which majority vote I certainly don't have. So that autonomy of mine as an elected official is unalienable, if I understand it right.
Mr. Mayor, council members, the Brown Act does allow for a brief response to comments by the public, as well as brief questions of staff for clarification.
Thank you. I will do that.
In response.
Thank you. I will do that. Mr. Liu, are you gone? Oh, no, you're still here, sir. You asked a question. You deserve an answer. Yes, there is something in the pipeline that Mr. Vogt, when you asked him, did not
He didn't answer.
Yeah, he did not answer, and the
agendas.
The answer is yes. You're right. There is a development in the pipeline. It's going through its processes. It is a development by a real estate company, Meritage. It has to do with their application to the City Hall for a rezoning of several acres of land, which is zoned either commercial or industrial, but one or the other. They want it rezoned residential so they can build several dozens of condominiums right down here on Alton and Commerce Drive.
Thank you, Councilman Nick.
And that company, Meritage, is in fact indeed the company that contributed to a political action committee.
Let him talk.
Wait, we're not having a discussion here. It's supposed to be a brief.
I know you're mayor.
And that company is the company that actually contributed to a political action committee based in Laguna Niguel, $10,000 for Scott Vogt and $10,000 for Mr. Hamilton to get them elected. So you were correct, sir, on that.
Thank you. We're not going to go into discussion right now.
When is enough? I mean, the people are sick of all this traffic and all the water problems.
Mr. Mayor, council members.
Thank you. Thank you. Want to sit down, please? Thank you. It's Adam Nick that was benefited from the developers, not me. So thank you. Sit down.
I have not received any benefits for $1, not even a dime. Check my records, not a penny.
Mr. Nick, did you receive a contribution from Brookfield Homes on your 460 in December?
That's when I ran.
That was a developer.
That's for when I ran for Congress in the Central County, which includes Santa Ana, Garden Grove, Orange, and Anaheim. Had nothing to do with Lake Forest.
That's on your Lake Forest 460s, though.
It is. It should
you
not
can look
be.
it up. You can look it up.
It's probably
December.
Thank you.
City Attorney may, I think we're kind of out of order here.
The Brand Act allows for a brief response, not dialogue. It is time for us to move forward.
Come on, please come forward, Bob.
Okay.
Lake Forest resident?
Yeah, yes, Lake Forest resident, Bob Holtzclaw, been here for too long. I have to agree with one of the other speakers here about the county and the animal shelter. The animal shelter up here is deplorable. And, we brought it up here, and there were like groups of people from other cities about planning, to have an animal shelter down here, and I think we really should. And I mean, not just give it a, yes, yeah, we'll think about it, stuff like this, but actually really, seriously think about getting another animal shelter down in this area. About 5 years ago, closer to probably 8 years ago, my dog died, and I was down there looking for another dog. And I thought, I'll just get a shelter dog this time. That's the last time I ever was at the Los Angeles, or the Orange County Animal Shelter. There was one dog there, a small dog, and he'd been in a car accident. His one eye was hanging out of the socket, and they had him in just one of the rigger cages there, and he was still standing up like this, but his eye was wiggling around in the, from the socket. No aid, nothing for this dog. The kennels were dirty, and we're sending our animals up there with that kind of treatment. It's something here, that we just got to take a look at really strongly and say, we've got to look with other cities. Don't treat them rudely or anything else when they come here. And let's get together and see if we can't find a spot for a shelter down here. Mission Viejo has an excellent shelter. We can do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
There have been no further requests. That takes us to the consent calendar warrant register, agenda items 5 and 6. All matters listed under the warrant register are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the warrant register for separate action. There have been no requests from the public to remove an item from the warrant registers. Mayor and Council, would you like to remove any item from the registers?
Actually, there is one item for the amount of $2,000. It's in item number 5. I am advised that I should recuse myself. It's a payment to an attorney. I don't know what it is about. I'm not privy to it. I'm not privileged to know that. I guess my colleagues are seeing an attorney to my exclusion for some purpose, unknown to me, unknown to you. And I'm advised to recuse myself from it. So they're spending $2,000 to this individual. I don't know what it's for. And neither can you. And yet, we got to pay it. I'm told I cannot know it, and yet I got to stay away from it, so I am staying away from it. Thank you.
I'll take, can we have a point of clarification? What is item number 5 on warrant registry for the payment of $2,000 for an attorney that...
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is a payment to the law firm of Baum Wildish. They have been retained in the ongoing matter involving the City of Lake Forest and Councilmember Adam Nick.
For litigation purposes?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
I'll take.
I'll move the
motions.
I'll move the items.
Second.
All in favor? Noting that Councilman Nick is abstaining from item 5.
Thank you.
That motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Nick abstained on item 5.
Thanks, Madam Clerk.
After the consent calendar.
That takes us to the consent calendar miscellaneous, items number 7 through 12. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed. There have been no requests from the public to remove an item from the consent calendar. So, Mayor and Council, would you like to remove any items?
Hearing none, I'll receive.
Move the items.
Second. All in favor?
If I could beg of you, is there an item for me to, Mr. City Attorney? There's nothing, right? I apologize. Thank you.
Cast your votes.
That motion carries unanimously.
Public hearings.
Public hearings, the City Council, when considering the matters scheduled for hearing, will take the following actions. They'll open the public hearing, receive the staff report, accept public testimony, City Council comments and questions, and then take appropriate action. Those wishing to address the Council during a public hearing must complete a request to speak form and provide it to the City Clerk prior to the hearing. Agenda item 13, the annual review of development agreements submitted by City Manager.
At this time, we'd like to open up this public hearing to the public. Is there any public speakers?
There have been no requests to speak.
Okay, bring it back to the staff report.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'll defer to Mr. Tomaino for a brief report on this item.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, in 2008, the city began to conduct an annual review of its development agreements. The review includes an assessment of the numerous provisions triggered in each DA, such as the timely submittal of all development and grading plans, addressing site-specific conditions, payment of fees, and compliance with elements such as the Affordable Housing Implementation Plan. The review process ensures that the city's development partners have fully complied with the terms of each DA. Staff, with the assistance of legal counsel, review the activities of each developer relative to the provisions of their respective agreements. After an extensive review, staff and legal counsel found all development partners to be in full compliance with the terms and conditions of the agreements. As detailed in the agenda report, the past 12 months have been productive for both the city and its development partners. In particular, Shea Baker Ranch Associates advanced construction significantly. The developer pulled most of its permits for Phase 1 and is actively working on Phase 2 of its project. SBRA also satisfied its affordable housing obligations with the completion of the affordable units that comprise the Meta project. In other parts of the city, Brookfield and Taylor Morrison continue advancing construction of their projects. Brookfield has pulled permits for 9 of its 11 buildings. Taylor Morrison has pulled permits for approximately 50% of its project. Additionally, Portola and Toll Brothers have begun advancing some of their grading activities. As required by the agreements, an inflation escalator was applied to fees due to the city. The fee escalator was calculated to be an increase of approximately 0.5% over the prior year, and the escalator became effective July 1st of this year. At this time, staff recommends the City Council find the OSA developers to be in full compliance with the terms and conditions of their respective development agreements. Staff will continue, as always, to monitor the compliance of each OSA development partner and report back to the City Council in approximately 1 year. This concludes my presentation. Staff would be happy to answer any questions the City Council may have on this matter. Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Move staff's recommendation.
We'll close the public hearing before we take that. So we'll close the public hearing, and now we'll take your motion.
I'll second the motion.
I have one comment, and I thought it was a good report. Sometimes you go into a lot of detail, and sometimes you go into less detail. I guess in the future, for my purposes, more is better than less, but it was a pretty good report, and there was lots of detail, and a little bit more the next time would be great. But with that, I'm happy to vote.
Okay, please cast your votes.
That motion carried unanimously. Agenda item 14, revisions to the fee resolution for sports field, gymnasium user groups, and community services programs submitted by Director of Community Services.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff would like to recommend and request that the city council actually pull and continue item 14 off agenda at this point, and that we'll bring that back at a future date after additional work is done.
Do we need to vote on that?
Mr. Mayor, council members, it's a hearing that's been noticed, so a motion to continue is necessary.
I'll make a motion that we continue that.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
That motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 15, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lake Forest, California, amending Title IX of the Lake Forest Municipal Code relating to the sale of alcohol for off-site consumption, Zone Change 2-15-4742, submitted by Director of Development Services.
If I may, very briefly, I need to recuse myself from this one item, and I would like to explain very briefly why I am having to do that. It is not that I don't want to fulfill my duty. It is not that I don't want to be here. In fact, I'm going to be here along your side. It is just that having been here for 34 years, since I was 16 years of age, and you having been my family for all these years, I am successful in the sense that, financially successful in the sense that I have a couple of retail businesses in Lake Forest, plus some properties here and there. As such, when an item appears before us, because I want to have an abundance of caution, I recuse myself when that item is either in the same line of my business, or whether it's a handicap ramp that is near a property I own, whether it's an improvement to a park next to which I have a property. So if over the last number of years you have seen me recuse myself every once in a while, such as this one, it is for that very reason. The recusal that I did do a few minutes ago on that $2,000 item is the very first time in almost 3 years that I recused myself from something about which I had no idea. Otherwise, I am fully aware why I'm recusing myself, and I'm doing it again just to make sure that there is no conflict of interest on my part, not even an appearance of a conflict of interest. Thank you.
And with that, I'd like to move staff recommendation. It's something that we've all had great time to put into, and this is a great ordinance for the city. So I'd like to open it for public comments.
We've had no request to speak.
Okay, bring it back to council.
Mr. Mayor, it'd be probably appropriate that we provide a staff report on this item.
If you would like.
If with your indulgence, I'll turn it over to Ms. Ackerman for the purposes of providing that report. Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and council members. On August 4th of this year, the City Council adopted the policy for the review of requests for alcohol sales for off-site consumption and the determination of PCN, and directed staff to initiate an amendment to the Lake Forest Municipal Code, which would require a use permit and new findings for approval for all alcohol sales for off-site consumption. The proposed amendments are detailed in the report, and they will add alcohol sales for off-site consumption to the city's land use matrix and require a use permit to be approved by the Planning Commission in several zoning districts. The Planning Commission reviewed this item in the month of August and is recommending that City Council adopt the ordinance attached to your staff report. Thank you.
Do you have any questions, council?
Just a comment. I thought it's a very good job, and it's taken us a long time to be at this point, but going forward, I think that's a lot better for the citizens, for the planning, for everybody involved, for us to have done such a good job on this, so everybody knows what's going on. with that, I'll move approval.
And, I'd like to commend staff in helping us put this together. The fact is, I think that it tightens up things and actually makes the city a better place. And so I'll second that motion. And
if we can have just a second discussion. I think we talked the last time about possibly adding some items if a business has a history or has in the past or future potential violations, but I think maybe it sounds like there might not be consensus moving forward on that. So I just wanted to bring it up, but if not, I'm willing to support this.
No, I thought we agreed that this was not a final product, that chances were we'd come back in 6 months or somewhere down the line when no one's fully gone through this process because it hasn't been in place. So as we saw the first people go through this process, the chances are, we would amend it. So I kind of agree with you. There was so much there. My feeling is, we digested enough, and let's get on with it. But I am open to coming back and looking at it and making it better.
All right. That sounds good.
Please cast your votes.
The motion carried with Councilmember Nick recused. And that brings us to discussion items. Agenda item 16, annual review of the investment policy and revision to the list of broker-dealers for investment purchases submitted by Deputy City Manager, Director of Finance.
This is a public comment, or public or hearing, so do we have anything from the public?
This is a discussion item.
Okay.
However, we have had no request to speak on this item.
Did we close the last public hearing?
I believe that we did.
Thank you. City staff report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll turn it over to Mr. Neves to provide a brief presentation on this item.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, presented before you tonight is the annual review of the investment policy and the review of the list of broker-dealers with staff recommendations. On March 17th, at the request of Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton, staff presented the investment policy in conjunction with the mid-year budget review. During those discussions, Council formed an ad hoc committee that consisted of Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton, Councilmember Gardner, and directed them to work with the City Manager and the Finance Director reviewing and talking about the policy. Attached to the agenda report tonight is a red line copy of the proposed policy with staff's recommendations. In addition to the recommendations, BBK, the city's attorney, completed the annual review of the policy for compliance with state law. They found no out of compliance with state law, the new red line policy. Some of the major changes that I'll go through, some changes were just language, strengthening language or clarifying language that was in the policy, and then I'll go through right now some of the other major changes that are in the policy. So the first big change is staff is recommending the maximum maturity for any single investment purchase may not exceed 5 years per government code. Currently, on our old policy, it was 4 years, so we're going to move that up to 5 years. What that does is give staff the flexibility to invest some of the idle cash a little longer than 4 years. We can go up to 5 years. And by doing that, we are going to take out the language stating the average weighted life of the portfolio may not exceed 2 years, because it's now going to exceed that if we go to 5 years. So it will exceed 2 years. A next change is on the federal agencies, allowable instruments, quantity, and limit guidelines. Staff is recommending changing the limit guidelines for the purchase of federal agencies, both callable securities and non-callable securities. These instruments are federally owned or sponsored by the federal government. Next to the U.S. Treasury, they're the safest investment probably in the world you can buy. It's an implied guarantee, not a guarantee like the U.S. Treasury. But there's nothing next, this is second in line right after the Treasury. Our old policy said that we could buy no more than 60% of the total portfolio of federal agencies. We were asking to put that at no limit. That stays within California Government Code. We are also asking to put each issuer at 50%. The old policy was anywhere from 20 to 30%. That will allow staff some flexibility. What has become in the marketplace right now is you're not seeing as many bullets out there, and we had a very strict policy on mostly bullets, and there's a lot of callables out there, and our policy on callables was only 15% of the portfolio, so it was restricting us to buy more callables out there in the marketplace. So by changing this, it will allow us a little more flexibility.
Just one quick question. Could you just briefly help all of us? Some things, some people hear the term bullets and callables. Can you just give like a...
I'll give a little... A bullet is a bond you buy that a 1-year bond, 2-year bond, 3-year bond, 4-year bond that is never called. You hold it through the maturity. Callable can be called at different levels, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. It could be a 1-year callable, a 2-year callable. It depends on what bond you are buying. Some other clarifications in the staff report on, we're clarifying the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation on time deposits and CDs. We're putting the $250,000 limit in there. It never really said that specifically, but it was implied that we would only buy those instruments up to that limit. We're just kind of restating the language to make that more clear to everybody who reads the policy. A couple other changes. Commercial paper, it's going from 15 to 25%. That is what's allowable under state law, and cannot exceed 270 days maturity. The other not big change, but since we brought the policy back, we're also bringing back the broker-dealer list early. Last time, we bring that back every 5 years. The last time staff brought that back was in 2013. So we're bringing it back and adding a broker-dealer because one of ours has closed shop in California. That broker-dealer is Multi-Bank Securities. We're asking that to replace Citibank Securities that has left the marketplace, the government agency marketplace. It's a tough marketplace to be in nowadays. What they bring, and we need to change the policy to be able to bring them on board. The policy used to say that you had to have an office and the broker-dealer be in California. We're taking that out of the policy. This broker is outside of California, but they do have an office in Newport Beach. So we're changing the policy to give us a little more flexibility. That broker-dealer, what they're adding is they've got a platform called eConnect Direct. And that platform is free for their clients. It lets you see over 200 brokers around the nation and what they're holding. Currently, brokers just send you whatever is out there each morning, but this will allow me to go onto a web-based platform and you'll be able to see 200 different brokers and what's out there in the marketplace. So you'll be able to see a lot more stuff. With that, the only other not recommendation, but the committee expressed interest in joining the Orange County Investment Pool, and I will talk about that a little later. I'll take it back to council and let you guys talk about that, but there was interest in going back to the Orange County Investment Pool. Currently, the Orange County Investment Pool, there's only 3 cities that have been back into it since the bankruptcy in 1994, the County of Orange bankruptcy. That pool holds all the community college and school districts' money by state law. There's a few other participants, non-voluntary participants, that have joined the pool, special districts, and so forth and so on. But we'll talk about that in a little more. We do have 2 other pools. We are in the local agency investment fund pool, which is the state treasurer runs that pool. And then we're also in the California Asset Management Pool. Currently, we move most of our funds through LAIF. in that pool that come into the city and move, and the developer and stuff, and then try to move it out into our investments. And the California Asset Management Pool, we only keep $3 million in there, and that's the emergency fund of the city, per this policy of the city. So we just keep that $3 million there for any emergency. We're not really pushing money in and out of there. We're pushing money in and out of LAIF. The Orange County Investment Pool is a pool just like these other pools. With that, I just want to remind everybody the city's primary philosophy is the preservation of principal, safety first, liquidity second, and then yield comes third. So we're always looking to make the investment policy as safe as possible, keep our money, liquidity so we can move our money and help with CIP projects and just regular city business. And then, of course, the very end, looking to earn some yield for the city to put in the general fund. With that, the recommended modifications to the policy may result in additional investment opportunities and will allow staff greater flexibility while making investment decisions. I will turn it back over to the city manager if he has any comments, or I'll turn it back to the city council for any questions on the report.
Council, do we have any questions?
So I want to thank staff, Finance Director Neves, and the city manager. Thank you very much for the multiple conversations we've had about this. I want to echo your comments on safety, liquidity, and yield. I think that's very important. I think you kind of alluded to the Orange County Investment Pool at the end of the memo. You discussed the OCIP is what it's called, the Orange County Investment Pool. Provide some background, and you say it's at the council's discretion, and I think you did some analysis of their investment portfolio. Am I correct in that regard? And you compared it to the other pool, large pool that we're a participant of, the Local Agency Investment Fund, LAIF. Do you have any
yes, I have.
comments on that?
I went up and sat with the treasurer tax collector and had a meeting to review their investment policy, to see what was in their investment policy, to see what they invest in, their philosophy. Their policy is very similar to LAIF's. It's very restricted. It's very similar to our policy, and very restricted with just treasuries and agencies, corporate, CDs, and so forth and so on. There is not much difference between the three policies. Just for a little more background, LAIF, it earns about 6 percentage points above LAIF does right now. So LAIF is about at a 0.33. The Orange County Investment Pool is about a 0.39 right now.
I actually had a little bit different numbers, but I had at least 32 in July and 47 in LAIF. Sorry, LAIF was 32 in July, and OCIP was 47, according to
yeah. Well, I didn't have July's numbers. I had some previous numbers in there.
Okay.
So it could be up there.
All right. So one might ask why these policies are almost exactly the same, but one is earning, 47.47%, and the other one earning 0.32%. And so I recently attended a conference that was hosted by the California Municipal Treasurers Association, and there was a forum with representatives from both LAIF, LAIF, and the Orange County Investment Pool, OCIP, and I asked that question during this forum. And so, in short, the difference is due to the duration or the term of investments they hold. The LAIF, they hold investments for approximately 3 to 4 months is what the answer was during this forum. And the Orange County Investment Pool has them for approximately 7 to 8 months. So both both of them are very short term. One just goes a little bit longer, and so I think based on them having almost identical investment policies and having obviously safety, liquidity, and yield as our primary 3 objectives in our investments, and theirs too, I think it would be appropriate for us to add to our investment policy that the Orange County Investment Pool would be also an authorized investment.
Was that a
You know, and one more thing I just wanted to say, too, is that if we go back to page 312 for, it's going to take me a second to get there. And I fully support all of your recommended changes to the investment policy. I just think that that issuer limit of 50% for those agencies, although today we would never breach that, I think there could be a time that, I don't know if there was some kind of calamitous event and there are other agencies that are not issuing. I feel like at 50%, we might be able to strike that. I don't think that's a deal breaker for me, but I want to allow our Director of Finance flexibility, and since it is a safe, as he mentioned, the second safest type of investment that you can get, I don't know if I necessarily think I want to hamstring you into only allowing 50% per issuer. I know that that would definitely be a goal, and I would support that, but in an emergency situation, I just would not want to hamper you in that regard. So that's a little bit lesser on my priority, but those are the two comments I had.
Just briefly, since we did have a subcommittee, the council, so I'm assuming that you both are in agreement on this. Is that correct?
Yes, although quite frankly, during most of the conversations, I sat there and listened to the two of them. But yes, I agree.
Yeah, well, and I think that that's one of the benefits is we've got both a layman's perspective as a council member, which is good, and just trying to make sure that we understand everything. And then I know that Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton you guys got like 5 or 6 certificate acronyms after his name about, municipal, whatever it is. So he's a part of all of this as being essentially a CFO at Mesa Water District. In fact, your name's even in the report here in this multi-bank thing. So, but I just wanted to make sure that you both were signing on to this and that we got your feedback there. So, was there a motion to move forward with all the items? And
yeah, also I'll make a motion that we adopt staff's recommendation with the 2 caveats that I mentioned, to remove any issuer limits and to also add the Orange County Investment Pool as an authorized investment. There wouldn't be any limits, obviously. And I also, as a part of that motion, would like to distribute a book entitled Public Fund Investing for Dummies. I'm not saying anything about my colleagues, but I'm going to keep one myself, and I also have one for the director, finance director, so if you could pass that. So each of you has a book now, and we'll all be educated on public fund investing.
Obviously, you mentioned in your presentation, and first of all, thank you guys for in looking into this. Our city has a track record of being safe with our money, and so and you continued that on as our financial director. But what is the holdback from municipalities participating with the Orange County pool? You said there was only 2 cities that are now actively participating?
There are currently 3 cities that have come back into the pool within probably the last 7 or 8 years. I don't know, and I asked the Orange County Treasurer. Of course, that position changes every 4 years, so she couldn't really tell me why a lot of cities aren't coming back to it. It's probably the fear of the bankruptcy in 1994. They're the only, not the only county, but, a county went bankrupt, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. A lot of cities lost money during the bankruptcy, so it's the fear of going back. But if you look at the investment policy now, they have really tightened that up, and it's as strict as any other pool that's out there or city investment policy. My recommendation would be if you guys want to go back into the pool, we set a limit, a percentage of the total portfolio. And we go back year by year, and we can increase that, because we bring the policy back every year. So you could not have a no limit, but you could set a limit, and then we can just increase it each year.
I think that, was there a second of the motion? Okay, I'll second the motion, staff recommendation, with the caveats of his, but I just assume that you guys just be cautious and use your judgment on that. So, and if there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote.
Just real briefly, I mean, so basically we're just giving you lots of options here, but I mean, what you're really looking at how you're investing this on essentially a monthly basis or whatever, correct?
Yes. I build the policy for the position, not the individual. So whether it's me or someone else coming through the position, you build a policy that can control the position so nobody can push out one way or the other and invest it too much. So when it comes to limits, I probably a little disagreement with Councilmember Hamilton, Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton. I like setting limits because I set limits for the position, not me. Maybe I wouldn't invest any more than 50%, but that's where I kind of go on those limits like that.
And that's kind of how I view it myself, actually, is that we kind of give you the opportunity to do a lot there, but, you know, some of these have no limit, so if you put all of it into that, then that would mean that you're putting nothing into the other funds, correct? So I kind of feel like give you that flexibility, and then again, we're looking at this on a, you know, monthly, quarterly basis ourselves as well, so it gives us that check-in, and, you know, I like to provide that same level of flexibility, but if I understand, so there's the motion, but the second is to put some limits in place. Were you taking on comments there? Or?
No, what was the comments, the caveats that you made was the Orange County Investment Pool, as I stand corrected?
Correct.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And what was the other one on page 312?
Page 312, removing the issuer limit for, that's in the red line of 50%.
For federal agencies, per issuer.
It's item B, and an issuer limit would say no limit.
But the fact is still the director's discretion.
It's still under, yes, the treasurer's discretion to invest for the city.
And just to add, item number 10 tonight was the monthly treasurer's report. So we have the opportunity to review any purchases on a monthly basis, which you did make some, by the way, a 4-year investment, which was what, a 1.5 or 1.5?
Yeah. When we started this process, we were at about 0.28, 0.29. Without changing the policy, it's at 0.48 right now. The policy will. We're not chasing yield here, so I don't even like to talk about that. But you know, if you look at the Treasurer's report tonight, that's where we're at.
Your limit is really no limit because it's your discretion. So the maximum would be 70 or 50%, or you want to move it beyond 50%?
Just for agencies, right now the way that the recommended policy says is 50% per federal agency or government-sponsored entity. So generally, you know, that's the Fannie Mae's, Freddie Mac's, Federal Home Loan Bank, Tennessee Valley Authority. There's a bunch in there. So I'm just saying, if in an emergency or something, there's not a lot of activity going, or issuers or things like that, I just think that having an issuer limit, as long as it is in that category, like the Director of Finance said, it's the second safest type of investment behind Treasury. So they all have the implied but not explicit backing of the federal government.
So you want to put a cap at 70%? Or are you okay with 50%?
I was saying no limit, but 70% would be better than 50.
But okay, it's because it's the director's discretion, anyways.
Yes, I'd like to put. I mean, if you're not going to give me 50%, I'll take 70%.
Would you rather have be 50%?
You know, that's where I don't think I would ever go above 50% on any agency. But as Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton said, if there's big changes in the marketplace, something happens, and you needed the flexibility. I think I'd bring the policy back to you quickly before the year's up, before that ever if I saw things happening in the marketplace like that. But it's really up to your discretion.
So I'll make the second if Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton would like it to be 70%. But it's to your discretion, and obviously I don't want to put you out of your comfort zone either. So
70%.
Okay, 70%. My motion is set second. So cast your votes.
Can we and you're joining the Orange County Investment Pool?
Well, I'm making that an option.
We will need to join the Orange County Investment Pool. I will have to give the Treasurer Tax Collector a call. They will have to accept us into the pool. I will have to bring a resolution from the city back to you. So I would do that with some changed language. We could approve this policy as is tonight, and then the additional language and the resolution would need to come back to the City Council for you to approve to be able to get into the pool.
Thank you. Cast your votes.
That motion carried unanimously. Agenda item 17, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lake Forest, California, adding Chapter 8.72 of Title 8 to the Municipal Code to provide an expedited, streamlined permitting process for small residential rooftop solar systems, submitted by Director of Development Services.
Do we have a staff presentation or explanation?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, I'll defer to Ms. Ackerman.
Thank you and good evening. Assembly Bill AB 2188 requires that every city and county adopt an ordinance that creates an expedited, streamlined permitting process for small residential rooftop solar energy systems on or before September 30th of this year. The city's current practices are consistent with the requirements of AB 2188, and the proposed ordinance is largely a matter of affirmatively complying with state law. So the adoption of the ordinance will put us in compliance, and we currently do process rooftop solar systems administratively with a single building inspection. Thank you.
Without further comments?
Just had a comment to say that I went through the city process about 2 years ago. It was terrific. It happened, it worked great. So if we're continuing to do great, that's great.
I'll move approval of the item.
Second.
All in favor?
That motion carried unanimously. Agenda item 18, updated discussion regarding property assessed clean energy PACE programs, submitted by City Manager.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mr. Members of the Council. I'm going to defer to Mr. Tomaino for a brief introduction on this item.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of the Council. Last year, as you may recall, the City Council authorized the city's participation in the HERO program and the California First program. Recently, when staff brought back a resolution to enable the city's participation in California First, the City Council requested additional information regarding specific aspects of PACE program financing. PACE programs, as you know, are authorized by state law to encourage property owners to undertake improvements resulting in lower energy usage and lower energy bills. PACE programs enable property owners to finance these improvements through a special assessment on their property taxes. These programs have been generally successful in creating additional incentives for energy-related home improvements. In Lake Forest, for example, the HERO program has generated approximately $1.6 million in projects. The report prepared for this evening's agenda summarizes the questions raised during a prior City Council meeting regarding PACE programs, including program eligibility, interest rates and fees, and loan subordination questions as it pertains specifically to the Federal Housing Finance Agency. With us tonight are representatives of the HERO program, Mr. Josh Brock, and California First, Mr. Jeremy Hutton. In addition, we have representatives from Y Green also in the audience. These representatives, along with staff, are available to answer any questions that the City Council may have. Thank you very much.
Do we hear from the public?
Jeffrey Jackson, followed by Randy Johnson.
Good evening to the City Council. My name is Jeffrey Jackson. I'm here tonight for the Orange County Association of Realtors. First off, I want to say that the Orange County Association of Realtors, as have the California Association of Realtors and the National Association of Realtors, has been uniformly and vehemently against the PACE program from its inception. You may ask, what do we got against energy efficiency? We have nothing against energy efficiency. What we have is an opposition to the infringement of property rights. The PACE program sets up a lien. It's really a super lien that goes on everybody's property tax bills when they sign a loan to have the PACE system, or through the PACE program, to have a solar or other energy efficient system installed. These loans are often made at 8.5%. If you're going to take out a home equity loan of the same type or venue, it's going to be somewhere probably in the neighborhood of 4 or 4.5% at this point. I may be off on my number, but you get the gist. It has been stated repeatedly that the federal government, through whatever program, be it Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, HUD, or the VA, will not loan on these programs, will not guarantee the loan. If somebody would purchase a home with one of these liens on top of it, it is our experience that what would happen is the bank would take a look at the loan application for the borrower to buy the house, and they'd say, guess what? You have a $30,000 PACE loan. That has to be paid off before we'll even consider the application. That to us, and it doesn't matter if a realtor is handling this transaction or if you're doing a for sale by owner or whatever, that to us is a clear infringement of somebody's property right. And we think this council should be the first and foremost to be able to stand up to the public and say, we're going to take your reaction, we're going to step first, and we're going to vote against continuing the PACE program. It's bad public policy. I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you for being here.
Randy Johnson, followed by Daniel Magana.
Good evening again, Council. Randy Johnson from Lake Forest. I stood before you once before, and I talked about the dangerous aspect of this PACE program. Now, I'm concerned for the safety of the consumer and the financial system as a whole. We've all been through 2008. We've been there, we've done that. We don't want to go back there. And as far as I'm concerned, this is a replay of 2008, what we're doing here. Let me again explain the eligibility requirements to get a PACE loan for energy purposes. No credit score requirement, no debt to income requirement, no income verification, because you don't have to have a job. Borrow up to 15% of the property value, and today I learned up to $200,000 that you can put on your property taxes. For a median priced house in Lake Forest, $600,000. It's a $90,000 loan you can put on your property taxes. No down payment, 100% financing, 6.5% administration fee, which means, of course, that for a $20,000 loan, you're talking about $1,300 that is rolled into the loan that you have to pay off during the amortization process. The interest rates, 6.75% to 8.39%, depending upon the term of the loan, from 5 years to 25 years. You know, that money is not cheap. That's expensive money. You know, as the gentleman just got through saying, 10% equity is all that's required, regardless of the value of the loan. Now, we're at a 21% affordability index in Orange County. That means that 21% of the households can afford a loan for a median priced house of $615,000. Now, do you understand the ramifications here? A lot of people think we're in a bubble. That includes me too, real estate bubble. What happens when the interest rates go up? The value of the home goes down, okay? You're going to run into a huge problem when you've got a bunch of people on these PACE loans or HERO loans, and they're going to scream bloody murder after they find out they can't sell their home because they're underwater on their mortgage, and the banks won't allow it. They won't finance a home purchase while these PACE loans are an assessment on the property tax. There's a huge problem here, folks. I'm telling you. You know, you've got to protect the Lake Forest consumers. I don't know how you're going to spin this or how you can possibly approve this with all the caveats that are contained in this proposal. And as far as, you know, either we have to approve all the PACE loans or get rid of the HERO program, I don't agree with that either. You've already approved the HERO program. Some people are on it currently. Go ahead and keep it, I guess. You've already done the damage. You know, you can't really take it away now. But my God, don't add fuel to the fire. Don't add more of these programs that are getting people in huge problems when the real estate market goes south. Be careful.
Thank you.
Daniel Magana, followed by Matthew Miller.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, my name is Daniel Magana. I came here on behalf of Repower by Solar Universe, and we show our support for item 18, which is the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program. Our company has over 47 franchises in the United States and Puerto Rico, and we have 162 happy customers here in the Orange County since 2013. And as a solar contractor, we want to provide as many financing options to the families that we work with. And over 40% of those families are actually consumers in the Orange County that have chosen the PACE financing option, like CalFirst or HERO, as an option to finance their solar projects. Lastly, I'd like to share how the PACE actually helps the Orange County. 162 of those happy customers are really just 162 happy families. We've been able to, help them reduce their electricity bill. But what that means to the Orange County is that we've been able to provide over 512 jobs here since 2012. Our company, Repower by Solar Universe, would love to allow the residents here in Lake Forest to continue to have financing options like the PACE program with HERO and CalFirst. And it'll not only allow us to earn more business here in Lake Forest, but it'll also provide more jobs here in Orange County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matthew Miller, followed by Crystal Crawford.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Matthew Miller. I am the Regional Sales Manager for Peterson Dean Roofing and Solar. I'm here on behalf in support of item number 18, the PACE program. And the comments I really wanted to make, we could talk about specific statistics and how much business that we do. Peterson Dean is the largest independently held roofing and solar company in the United States. And we have found that with our customers, and I've also been the regional sales manager in San Diego, where HERO and CalFirst is readily available to all homeowners, that the customers love the experience of using CalFirst and HERO. It gives them an option other than traditional financing that they otherwise were not aware of. It also allows them to leverage some of their financial debt-to-income load, etc., that is otherwise not allowable under regular financing. So there's some options there that we like as a company because we provide two primary home improvements, roofing and solar. And some of our financing options do not allow that. So PACE under HERO and CalFirst in our experience has been exceptional. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Crystal Crawford.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff. Thank you very much for having this item on the agenda tonight. I am Crystal Crawford. I'm Director of District Development and Government Relations for White Green Energy Fund. We are the largest commercial and multifamily PACE administration company in California, and we are also the only PACE administrator that is currently operating in more than one state. We also have a program in Florida, and we're about to launch in Atlanta, Georgia. We're very pleased to be here this evening to ask that the City Council consider adding the Y Green Energy Fund program. I understand that staff is asking for further direction from Council. We would certainly support the option that has been presented to you to continue the PACE financing program here in the community of Lake Forest and to consider adding additional programs. In the packet that's been passed around to you, one of the things that I did quickly today in finding this item on your agenda was add to the comparison table in your staff report information about Y Green Energy Fund. So you'll see that we have comparable and in most cases slightly lower interest rates than the two programs that are presented in the staff report. We are proud to say that we try to keep our cost and fees as low as possible. One of the other differences that may be of interest to Council is that we're the only PACE company that's operating under the later legislation, which is commonly known as SB 555. That legislation made some improvements to the initial PACE legislation that was passed back in 2008. So we do have some additional options for your community. We, as I say, have the most robust commercial and multifamily program. So that would provide financing options to your property owners that own small businesses, that own apartment buildings, industrial buildings, create other opportunities for property owners here in town to reduce their water use and to reduce their energy use, as well as installing solar. So this helps. I'm a former elected official myself. I love this program. I voted for PACE back in 2010 when it was first presented to my then City Council because it helps cities meet unfunded government mandates. It helps you meet your greenhouse gas reduction targets, and of course, most recently, it helps you meet the governor's mandate for water conservation in your community. So it gives your residents a tool. It's a completely voluntary program, so residents are not required to participate, but if they would like to use the equity that they have in their home or their business property to secure PACE financing to make a wide range of improvements. I've also included for you a list of just a small sample of the types of improvements that are eligible for PACE financing, just for your information. And there's, of course, a lot of other information in the packet about consumer protections, about how we try to make sure that property owners are fully aware of how PACE financing works and what it means to their property and to their investment. So thank you very much. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I would ask that the Council consider adding the Y Green Energy Program to your PACE menu that's available here in Lake Forest.
Thank you. Is she our last speaker right now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll have some council questions, and so you might as well start with you.
All right.
Of the other funding, here in Orange County, we have signs on many of our lawns that say brown is the new green.
Yes.
Do you do anything for turf or grass replacement?
Yes, sir. In fact, you'll see on that list of eligible projects or eligible types of improvements under water conservation, artificial turf is one of the items that's mentioned. If property owners want to remove grass or other types of vegetation and put hardscape, that's also another improvement that would be allowed. Pavers, for example, is another way to remove your lawn and yet make improvements that are handsome and save on water.
As mayor of the city of Lake Forest, I'm actually one of the ones that have applied for the rebate from the municipal water district, and I was surprised to see when I started getting my square footage out and looking at the prices, the amount of money that's out of pocket above the rebate amount that's out there. So
that's correct.
That's something that's going to be a huge thing as we move forward.
You can combine, of course, PACE financing with eligible rebates, and in fact, that's something that Y Green and I believe the other providers as well, we encourage property owners to take advantage of all available rebates so that you reduce the amount that you're borrowing. But you're absolutely correct. An artificial turf rebate might be about $2 or so per square foot, but the actual cost to you as the consumer might be $12 to $15. So PACE financing can cover that gap in what's available with the rebate.
Also, water conservation on water heaters and waterless water heaters and stuff.
Yes, sir, as well as things like any type of low flow plumbing fixtures, gray water systems for homeowners. If you had in Lake Forest, forgive my unfamiliarity with your reclaimed water availability here in Lake Forest, but if you have excess reclaimed water and you would like your commercial property owners to hook up and use purple pipes, this program can fund those types of hookups for your commercial property owners. So it, again, creates opportunities for property owners who wish to make improvements, but they either don't have the cash or they have other needs for that cash or their credit. One of the speakers is absolutely correct. This is not a credit-based type financing. It is a different type of financing, but it is secured by the property itself. As you well know, property taxes are extremely secure. We have, for all practical purposes, a zero default rate on PACE payments. So property owners appreciate the opportunity to use this type of financing to make improvements that make their homes and businesses more comfortable, as well as reducing their energy and water use. And as you well know, our energy and our water bills are not going down. They're only going up. So the improvements themselves create positive cash flow, which can then be used by the property owner to service the additional tax increment on their property tax bill.
One last question. We have 2 lakes that want reclaimed water. We're working on that right now, but I'm just going.
Right.
I'm just teasing. But thank you for your presentation. Do the other providers do lawn? Would that be?
I don't want to speak from them, Mr. Mayor, but I believe the answer is yes. They're here and can certainly comment, but I believe that's something that's eligible under PACE financing in general.
Okay. Do we have speakers from the other 2 companies? Please come forward. State your company.
My name is Jeremy Hutman. I'm the Regional PACE Director for the California First Program in Renew Financial. And yes, to answer your question, we do offer financing for water-saving measures.
So, and she mentioned FB 555. What year was that passed? And that's
So perhaps
signed by the governor in 2011.
2011.
2011.
Okay.
Yeah, and my program, California First, operates under AB 811 enabling legislation, which is very similar.
But earlier legislation.
It is, yeah.
Okay. And council.
I have a question for the city attorney, and if you don't know this, I can ask one of the applicants, but PACE is a general program under which the HERO, which was approved last year, was approved by the previous city council. And then this hearing today, or discussion, was prompted by CalFirst coming to us and then us saying, let's get some more information about CalFirst. Is it, and now we have 2 more people have popped up. Is it the process that every one of these providers we're going to have to individually approve?
Mr. Mayor, council members, it depends on the structure of the program. The HERO program is a JPA. We had to enter into that JPA. I'm not familiar with the structure of these programs, but I would assume that for each program there is some action that has to be taken by the council, whether joining a JPA, adopting a resolution to join the actual program.
Okay. So is that the case? Well, in your case, I understand, but in your case, that's also true.
Yes, Mr. Gardner, Dr. Gardner, we have provided to staff our sample resolution. So we do provide documentation to the city staff and the city attorney for review, but they're basically very brief 2-page resolutions that would opt into the Y-Green JPA program. It's likewise a JPA program with a statewide JPA, Golden State Finance Authority. So the council would need to become a member, which does not cost the city anything to become a member of our JPA, nor does it expose the city to any liability or responsibilities, but you become a member and then you authorize the program via resolution. So we would hope that the council would direct staff to bring that back at your next council meeting for the council to consider authorizing the resolutions.
Okay, the reason I asked that is when the CalFirst came up, and then there were several residents who were unhappy about the program in general, and then I asked the city clerk to do some research. I did some research myself to see if there were consumer complaints, and what kind of a company was this, and were we letting our residents fall prey to a bad company. That's what I was interested in. I didn't find anything at all about CalFirst, negative about them. So I feel as if I've done my homework about CalFirst. These other 2 people who are appearing, I feel like I don't know them. I'm prepared to go ahead with CalFirst, but the other people, I guess that's my quandary.
I like that you brought, is it Crystal? Crystal, I like that you brought the comparison on the your diagram with the other two companies. And if I stand corrected, we only have California First and Y Green, which are actually providers of loans for this. And the concerns that we've heard from the residents, HEROES program is up and going, and so we'd have to put that on a future agenda to remove that if we were going to do that, correct? But in the meantime, what I think is that consumers deserve a choice, and the city of Lake Forest deserves a choice, and so I'm good with adding Cal First, but I also think that we should, for the consumers, to give them a wider range of options, add Y Green Energy Fund also to that, and so that would be my motion, that we include Y Green on this motion, a staff recommendation, and I'll make that as a motion.
As we've been looking at this over the last year and a half, I think I stated it when we voted on the HERO program last year, but these type of funding options aren't something that I personally would be interested in. There are a lot of things that we do in town that I'm not personally interested in, but first of all, I never really understood why the city has to be voting on this. I understand the legislature made it happen, but it doesn't make sense to me why I have to be approving what a resident can do with their own property. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. So even though I'd never used this personally, I feel a sense of responsibility to the residents of Lake Forest to allow them to make these decisions themselves. Right? I feel that that's really important, that if you want to use this funding option, even though I personally wouldn't, you should have the option. And if you have no other, and this is what seems to make sense to you, then I think that's really important, that I shouldn't be able to allow you to have that responsibility. I think it's ridiculous that I do in the first place. But if that's what I'm being told has to happen, then I want to give you that opportunity. If I start hearing from residents that they're really concerned about these programs, then I'm going to have to try to figure out what to do at that point, because I still would have the same philosophy that I should allow you to make a good, bad, or indifferent decision, whatever it might be. And I don't know what's good or bad in all of this, but I should allow the residents to make that decision and go from there. But that's where I've kind of struggled with this whole thing, because it doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't know if city staff or the city attorney can explain why, or is there any other programs that the state does that cause this to happen? I know that JPAs occur, but it's usually because of things that the cities are doing collectively to provide some service that everybody enjoys, not to provide them an opportunity to be a part of something. So I'm really confused by what the legislature has done. I don't know if you can provide any feedback, or if you just say it's a wacky bunch up there.
Mr. Mayor, Council, maybe the best answer is what you just gave regarding Sacramento. In terms of further direction regarding how the program works legally, if council votes to have us bring this back, then we could potentially, in a staff report, maybe explain that in more detail and do some research legally to explain how this program works, the PACE program works.
I'd appreciate that. And I know that there was one comment that was made about needing to that we need to protect the residents of Lake Forest, and from a public safety standpoint, I definitely know that's true. I mean, we need to provide certain services that protect the residents of Lake Forest, but once I start getting involved in your finances, in your property, in what's in your backyard or in your garage or going on in your house, that's not a place that I want to be. I want to let you do what you want with your stuff, and again, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it's I think that that's really important. I think if I start saying that I want to protect you from this, then what's the slippery slope? And again, philosophically, I can understand that, all of us have different opinions on this, but I mean, what's that slippery slope? I say, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't eat candy bars because it's bad for you. Maybe you shouldn't use plastic bags because we think they're bad for the environment. Maybe you shouldn't drive a car because you might get in a car accident and get injured. And so I start going down this road, and I just don't really feel comfortable with it. So I have to say, I'm not doing backflips about the programs, and that's no knock on what all you all are trying to do. I know you're trying to provide a service out there for people who might not be able to find traditional ways of doing it, but I'm not really excited about it. But for me, it's more a philosophical issue that I have with telling people what they can and can't do with their property, and that's where I'm really struggling with this.
Just wanted to say I agree with you 100%. I found this very awkward because of philosophical, like who are we? Yeah, it's a good deal, it's a bad deal. What right do we have to tell people to do that? But apparently some wacky, somebody up there gave that to us, which is why I wanted to then, given that some fool has required me to do that, and then given that we have to go ahead and certify it, then I felt like I had an obligation to do some homework and to be sure that I wasn't saying okay to someone that was obviously a fly-by-night. But I agree with you. I didn't like being put in that position in the first place, having to make that decision. So my backup position is okay. If I'm forced to do that, I certainly don't want, if that Cal First had come back with a terrible, F from the Better Business Bureau and they're in 50 courts being sued, then I might be inclined to say, oh, well, maybe that's the wrong person to let loose in Lake Forest. They had a clean record, so I was happy. But that is my quandary. But I agree with you. I resent being placed in that situation.
I couldn't agree more, and I think a few of us have said it up here, and I'm all for local control. So I guess it's interesting the state's giving us this ability, but how I view local control in this situation is it's a decision that should be able to be made in your house. That's local, right? It's being done by the council. That's not local. That's just like moving it up the chain. Now I'm higher up the chain when I think, normally that's local control. But local control should be you make the decision, and, so it's, I heard Councilmember Dr. Gardner's comments about the not having enough information on Y Green at this point, and I can respect that you want to do all your research there, and so at this point I'd be supportive of making a motion to move forward with Cal First, and then bring back Y Green at a later date where everyone had the opportunity, if they chose to look into the details of it and make sure that that's something that you would be comfortable with. And, I'm sure that that's something that we could do in the relatively near future, probably not the next meeting, but something fairly shortly thereafter. So
that's a motion. I second it. And I just hope we're not doing this every month. There's not another program coming in front of us from the next person, because that at some point that gets silly.
Understood. And maybe staff might be able to bring back if there are any other organizations at this point. Because I know last year when we talked about it, the only ones we were familiar with were Hero and Cal First at the time. And I think Cal First we couldn't have voted on a resolution at the time because it was still kind of tied up in some legislation or something.
Mr. Members of Council, they were going through a state validation process in order for that program to be effective in our jurisdiction. We're already a member of the Joint Powers Authority that Cal First is related to, so you don't have to join that JPA. But you need to take actions to adopt a resolution. That's not before you this evening. So if you are inclined to move forward with Cal First, then staff will need to bring back that resolution like we had at the previous meeting, which you then said, well, let's have a conversation first. So we bring that one back. If the council is desirous of having the information related to Y Green brought simultaneously, we can do that. Or you could, if you want to do them all at once, one way to do that, or if you want to string them out, we could do it that way. But I guess just listening to what Dr. Gardner said, perhaps you would want us to bring the potential actions related to Y-Green while you do whatever due diligence you believe you want to do in the interim. And we'd probably bring those back, not at the next meeting, if you could bear with us on that one, but probably in the month of October. Bring those two back to you because you want to take the enabling actions, and it sounds like we'll need to join a JPA for Y-Green if you're inclined to go there with that. But you can always say no to them, but yes to Cal First when we bring it back to you.
That makes sense, so I'll incorporate that into my motion, if you'd agree with that on a second.
So is that your second, is that we're tabling this until we bring them all back? Is that what
No,
you're-
we're not tabling.
Well, then I'm making a substitute motion that we table this motion until we bring them all back at the same time and let us have it all done at one time.
I second that.
I think that's what your motion is, actually.
It's not tabling it, it's bringing back the resolutions and then giving time.
Fundamentally, Mr. Mayor, you're, from what I'm sensing, the council is revalidating its support of PACE programs. That's the generic program authorized under state law. And one of the actions in order to accomplish that, because you're actually allowing something to go on a property tax bill, that's probably why the council's involved. But that being said, okay, so you're revalidating your support for PACE programs. We do not need to bring the HERO program back because you're already authorized membership in the program. Consequently, if you want to authorize participation in the other two, then we'll need to bring back the actions to allow you to do that. And that's what I think I'm hearing the initial motion that's being made and perhaps seconded was to bring back both Cal First as well as the actions that would be necessary to join Y-Green.
Yes.
And let the council make your final decision relative to both, actually, at that next meeting.
Yeah, and my logic there is, I think that the people of Lake Forest they should have an option. I don't like monopolies, and I think that competition is good. And obviously, Y-Green comes with some good rates, better rates than some of the others, but they're all pretty comparable. But I want to give the people of Lake Forest a choice to, I think so. That would be my thought there, and so
I just have a real quick, I was just going to good nature ribbing to my colleague to the left that you agreed with Councilman Robinson except for garages. So anyway.
All right. Can I get on the...
Well, hold on. I'm still have the floor. And so I was just going to say I agree with all the comments Dwight made, and I think really what these programs cater to low-income residents, and they can, because I think to me the financing is such that someone with the equity or the credit score, they can get more attractive, like I think what Councilman Robinson is saying. So I think I'm a little hesitant too, based on them having not having the ability to sell their house, without this super lien. However, again, this is their decision, and if they don't do the research prior, someone might have the option or have their house fully paid off, and they decide to do this program. I mean, it's their decision, and if they get themselves in a precarious situation, I think they need to do the research up front. So I was kind of torn, but I think I've been swayed by some of those arguments.
For our legal counsel, do we have the ability to add Y-Green to this motion, a staff recommendation, and add one extra provider?
Referring to page 372 in terms of staff's recommendation?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
So we have the ability...
But the motion had nothing to do with staff's recommendation.
That's what my initial motion was, staff recommendation with the addition of Y-Green. And so I'll make my initial motion. My initial motion was to accept staff recommendations with Y-Green added.
Mr. Mayor and council members, just for clarification, staff's recommendation was to provide direction. There were alternatives included on page 372 of the staff report, which included authorizing the city to effectuate Cal First in the city, or alternatively to cease working with the HERO program. But the recommendation was to provide direction. And so what we're dealing with here is what that direction is exactly.
So my final motion was to bring back, we'll table this and bring back both with final JPA.
And I think that's Councilman Robinson's motion.
Was that yours?
Why don't we see what the staff understands the motion to be at this point? Let's just try to get there. I just, because there's a lot of discussion up here, so what would you understand the motion to be? If not, I'll clarify.
The original motion by Councilmember Robinson, as I was typing as you were speaking, was you were supportive of moving forward with Cal First and the effectuating documents that we would have to do for them, and to bring back Y-Green at a later date for that same action, so not necessarily consider the final actions to join both programs at the same meeting. That was my understanding of your original motion that was seconded by Councilmember Gardner. However, then there was a substitute motion by the mayor. He used the word table, but basically to bring back the final documents for both programs at the same time, and that was seconded by Councilmember Nick. And then the discussion went back and forth regarding both of those.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing I would add to that slightly is that in the doing of that, you need to give us the substantiation that Y-Green is, the same thing you did before with Cal First, so that we can see that, so we don't have to delay it and do them both at the same time.
Yeah, I believe, Mr. Members of the Council, I believe that is the issue. So we can move on. I think what my understanding of it is, it's very similar to what the clerk said, though I do believe there was a desire to consider both of them the next time, which is then to bring back the enabling documents that would allow participation in either program, and you could make the choice finally at that next meeting. So fundamentally, I think where we're headed is what you're all talking about. So I think the motion is probably fine, and Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that the staff will bring back both sets of documents for both programs.
And so all members cast their votes.
Can I finally say something?
Yeah, please. Sorry.
That's okay. It is to the advantage of some of my colleagues for me to stay quiet. They do this by design. It's quite all right.
There was no design in that. I didn't see you.
Let me move on, please. No, I wasn't suggesting any particular one. It's just the whole culture here. The whole culture of talking for 40 minutes. I'm sitting here and I had no idea what that motion was until I actually had something that I could understand on second.
You interrupted me, so that's why
I thought you were finished. I apologize.
Okay.
But now you are interrupting me. Never. Let's be adults.
Okay, I apologize.
Let's be adults here. Let's be adults, guys. It is incumbent upon the government, any government, to protect its citizens from what I, a financial guy, deem to be a predatory practice. It is our duty. We were chosen to do just that. It is our job. What my colleagues are doing is they're saying, you know what, people can decide for themselves. It's like me going to the doctor knowing I have a disease, I have a tumor that it needs to come out. I have a tumor that needs to come out, except it says, it's really not my job. I'll tell you what, I'll give you this knife and this scalpel and that. You can do it. You have the option. Let me be more to the point. Let me give you a better example. What my colleagues are doing, they are telling people, you have a knife, you have a revolver, which I have loaded for you, and you have a rope. Decide by which you will die. Because this is not a good idea. Anybody who sees this package, we have had, and I don't want to digress people, but the reason I got involved is because I wanted to change the makeup of this council. I told that to some of you, 2 of you who are sitting out there tonight. And one of you said it was impossible. They had been there since their daughter was 8 years old. And that was 20, the daughter is now 32. Imagine that. I said, no. In time, if we educate people, if I educate people, if you help me, we have a chance. Well, guess what? The council who had effectively not changed in 20 years, 2 elections, 3 of them got voted out with 2 decades of incumbency. 3 of them got voted out. 1 of them, I guess, did not, I don't want to say did not dare run. 1 of them did not run, and 1 of them resigned. Right here, look me in the eye. When I went, right here, right behind me, it's on the city's website, I think. 2 months before that, I was sitting there, he was sitting here. During a break, my mic was on. I told him, I'm not going to name names, I told him that you are public enemy number 1. And come November of next year, I will do what I can for people to get to know you by then. And they will get you out of here. Some of this is actually on the city's website. It was during a break with my mic on. That was August 2013. 2 months later, the gentleman decided to resign. Right here, I went to shake his hands for the gentleman that I am, for the civil person that I am. And I said, I wish you good luck in your future endeavors. He didn't shake my hand. I'm okay with that. He looked me in the eye and he said, you're the reason for this. I don't think I was the reason for that. I think you were. I think the actual reason, the true reason, was him himself, what he had done. Maybe I was a catalyst, but it was you. It was your decision. We have a duty to protect you. You entrusted us. Not everybody is financially savvy. There were people on this council before and today to whom I do not entrust them managing a 700 square foot condo that I own, let alone a $40 million budget. Not everybody is financially savvy. I don't know how to cook. I don't know many things. A couple of things I know is how to make money and what to do with that money. I really don't know anything else. The biggest threat to us I've said this once before. The biggest threat to us Americans and our way of life is not Al-Qaeda. It's not ISIS. It is not North Korea. They are all threats, and I do take them seriously. The biggest threat to us Americans, to our way of life, that will inevitably affect each and every one of us, is a financial meltdown. Is when you go to the bakery with a duffel bag full of money and you cannot get a loaf of bread. I've seen it. I have lived it. A financial meltdown. What do you think would have happened if TARP had not happened? I apologize. I mean, Troubled Asset Recovery Program, for those who may not know the acronym. $1.5 trillion of our money. Our money. Remember, the government has no money. It's all ours. Was spent bailing out the very banks and the very CEOs who made this in the first place. I have seen it. I have seen the corruption in governments. I have lived it. And the worst thing is sometimes well-meaning people do the most horrific things. I am not suggesting my colleagues are not well-meaning, but I am saying that they're wrong. The perspective that I have is much different from each one of the four gentlemen to my left. I appreciate America more than anybody can imagine. It's a free land. Financially, there is no limit. Anything you want to do. And yes, you should be able to decide, except the decisions are just not. I would not let my own brother do this. I would not let my own sister. They would come to me. My sister is a pharmacology doctor. My brother is a licensed pilot who does not fly post 9/11. Everybody in the family comes to me for financial advice. The only thing they come to me is that. I would not let my own family do this. Why would I let the people of Lake Forest do it? I don't even know why I have that autonomy. I'm glad I do. I would have figured Sacramento would have just taken that power away from us, or would have never given us the power, like everything else. So I am actually glad. My colleagues are not glad, perhaps. I am glad. The more control I have, the better it is, because I know I'm a good person. I'm not a genius, but I'm smart enough to know what I don't know. And as such, for hours at a time at times, I speak with the city attorney, I speak with the city manager, we visit very, very regularly. I write them probably more often than anybody else here does. I know what I don't know. This I do know. Now, luckily nothing's happening tonight. Hopefully, at a later time, either my colleagues will have realized something that they don't realize now, or I'm always open-minded. Maybe there is something I'm missing. Time will be a good thing. Maybe I realize that I'm wrong. I don't think so. But all I know is when morals decline, and good men and women do nothing, evil flourishes. And I can tell you from experience, a society uninterested, unwilling to get involved, is doomed. Imagine this. Imagine you do this, you put this on your house. It's an irreversible thing. I have a very, very hard time with irreversible things. I'm sorry if I got carried away. It's just that it pains me because I so see that this is not a good thing. Thank you for listening.
Call for the vote.
That motion carried unanimously. Agenda item 19, City Council Policy Update submitted by City Clerk.
Do we have anybody from the public?
We've had no request to speak.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I would defer to the city clerk if she has additional information to provide, but I believe we've outlined various policies in this agenda item for you that are sort of a collection of different ones that we brought, and we'll be prepared to answer any questions that the council might have about any of them. At this point, it's the council's discretion.
I'll make a motion that we accept staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Call for the vote. All in favor?
That motion carried unanimously. Agenda item 20, legislative and regulatory matters submitted by Assistant to the City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, as of the council, this is really more of a status agenda item, and consequently, staff has nothing further to add at this moment.
So no vote needed. We'll just thank you. So that brings us to City Manager's report.
You know, before we go on to the next item, I was just wondering if maybe we could add to another meeting. I think the governor has called a special session related to transportation, and I think that might be
I second that.
something that we can discuss and maybe have a little brief research from the city staff.
Second that.
He's got consensus on that.
And I have nothing further to say to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Brings us to Councilman Gardner.
Thank you guys for staying so late. I just wanted to review a couple of things. August 15th, I had my town hall meeting. Those always are very interesting and very helpful to me. Next one is on December 12th. On August 22nd, the Kiwanis, the Boys and Girls Club, had a Balls for Calls event. On August the 23rd, we had that art in the park. Thank you, Director Wasserman. That went well. 7 local artists displayed their art. Some really good things. I had to keep my wife away. She was trying to spend all my money there. August 25th, we had our first Traffic Advisory Committee meeting. Thank you, Bob Holsaw, the only member of the public who was there. And one of the people was, one of the members was missing. So I'm going to propose, you know, we talked about alternates. So I'm going, if I can get some consensus, I'm going to ask.
I second that.
You didn't want to hear?
I apologize. Great minds think alike, I guess.
But for everybody else who didn't get that we appoint Jim Reichert as an alternate, just in case, to fill in for, so if I can get consensus on that.
I second that. I didn't know it was going to be Mr. Reichert, but great choice. Excellent choice.
I think you might be meaning to agendize.
Yeah, the appointment.
That,
right.
but you're not trying to.
Not trying to appoint him here, but to put it on
him
the
now.
agenda.
Okay.
Right. No, we couldn't do that from here. Yeah, to put that on the agenda. Setting, we talked about before, you know, having the alternates, and we approved that at the meeting, so now I'd like to agendize the discussion of appointing an alternate.
The discussion about having alternates.
Yeah, and at that point, not Jim Reichert.
It could be anybody.
It could be anybody from that list.
That's fine.
Okay. Thank you. And so that was a very, by the way, if you, do we, Mr. Mayor or the city manager, do we televise those, or are those not televised? Probably not, because they're just an
Yeah,
advisory.
they're not televised, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All the pearls of wisdom that were lost. But Tom Wheeler did a very good job, and they were taking notes, so we'll benefit from that. Today, the mayor and I went to Once in a Lifetime, grand opening of a store on Muirlands. If your kids get lice, these are the people who get rid of the lice. And I mean, it's a niche group, but it's a really necessary thing. So, Once in a Lifetime. It's right next to the taquito place on Muirlands. Interesting. Once in a lifetime, not lifetime. Today at the Board of Supervisors, I went to talk about animal control. For your information, I've started doing some work on the animal control ahead of the staff, and ultimately we'll give all that information to the staff. It turns out that one of the leading designers of animal shelters in the entire country is going to be in our city in about 2 weeks, and I've invited the mayor to attend a luncheon with that guy so we could pick his brains free of charge and not have to, pay for that. So we're trying to go ahead on that regard. And, and I have the first thing on my thing was Marsha Rudolph's passing. She was dedicated herself, spent an awful lot of time here at the council. And then when she was off the council, I really liked that she still was involved. She was at events, she was in the vector control, and many people have different opinions about her, but you cannot deny her level of involvement with the city. So I hope there's something we can do to, with the whatever memorial there's going to be for Mrs. Rudolph. And then I'd like to raise the issue of the Tour del Toro. The folks from the Boys and Girls Club, I guess they're gone. They needed us to act in 10 days. I'm not sure what we can do in 10 days. But at least maybe I can get consensus to put it on the agenda, and maybe they could delay for 15 days so that at least we could bring that back and consider what their options. Quite frankly, I wasn't sure what we were going to do, but let's get consensus to agenda.
You have mine. You have mine too.
Thank you.
But, okay, that brings us to Councilman Nick.
Already. Great. Hopefully I'll be only a couple of minutes making up for my digression a few minutes ago. Very quickly, I just want to say, Keith, that I guess it feels good to be a top sales tax producing. I always enjoy being a tax producing entity, especially when I'm up there. But I can't help but think that the fuel and services stations overall got less tax because of the fuel prices declining. So you see, my friend, from one end I bring the fuel prices down in Lake Forest. I force it down because we all copy one another. I mean, the industry. And then I guess the drawback would be that the related tax revenue with it goes down. So this time I let you down, I guess, but I took care of the people of Lake Forest. Thank you. That was on a light note. On a serious note, I would like to. I know I need to agendize it because Brown Act does not allow us to decide now. It has to be noticed. But I would like to. I would like to get consensus from my colleagues, and I need two of you to agendize sooner than later, so that we will continue our representation on the vector control. That we appoint Mr. Bob Holtzclaw to fulfill the remaining term of Mrs. Rudolph on the vector control. I think it's only a few months. And given that it's only a few months, maybe a year and a half at the most, I think, I don't think we need to go through the whole process of number one. Number two, not many are interested in the vector control board. So if there's somebody out there who's interested, and Mr. Holtzclaw is, I'd like to agendize so that we just appoint him, and we won't skip, we won't miss or skip any representation on the board from the city's perspective.
It's okay with me if we can appoint from here. That's fine. I think he'd be a great candidate.
Thank you.
If we can't appoint from here, then agendize the discussion.
Mayor and Council, I've actually already agendized it for 9:15 as a discussion. Appointments by the City Council to agencies that pay stipends actually require notification and publication under the MADI Act. So it must be advertised in a newspaper and posted for a certain number of days, but the discussion is agendized for 9:15, where all of those options will be, as well as Mrs. Rudolph's term and what the various options the council will have.
Great. Thank you and Godspeed.
Okay, that brings us to Councilmember Robinson.
I just want to thank you all for bearing with us tonight. So we had a nice long one. I want to just commend the staff again for everything that you guys do on a daily basis. So very, very much appreciated. So I hear such great comments, and I had the opportunity. I didn't get a chance to really take one last year when I was mayor, but I got the opportunity to take a vacation this year finally, and it was very relaxing. But coincidentally, I'm 3 time zones away, and I just happened to I ran out of clothes that day, and I happened to have my City Council logo shirt on. I thought I'd grabbed a different one, and I grabbed that one. So I was actually putting some golf balls. A guy walks up to me and says, "Lake Forest, you have the absolute best planning department in all of Orange County." He said, whenever I have to go in for a permit or anything like that, he just happened to live in Villa Park, and that was his comment. And so, literally 3 time zones away, and Lake Forest has a fabulous reputation. So I just wanted to pass along that comment, let you know how much I appreciate everything you do every day. So thanks a lot.
That brings us to Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton.
That's a great story. I don't have any stories like that, but I also want to thank staff, too. I know sometimes it can get tough slogging, but great job. I just want to spend 10 seconds here. I've tried to be very conscientious about my email communications used on city business, utilizing the Lake Forest ca.gov email address. I think there's been some blog posts publishing email addresses outside of that. I'm assuming it's inadvertent, but I just wanted to make sure and confirm publicly that my lakeforestca.gov address is my official email address, and all my city business will be conducted from that one. I also want to say Marcia Rudolph will be missed. Her service to our community, she was definitely an asset and will be remembered. Sunday was a sad day in Lake Forest, and if I suggest that we adjourn in a moment of silence in memory of her, that's my humble 2 cents.
Yes, I want to thank you all for being here still tonight, and I want to say that we will adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Councilmember and Mayor Marcia Rudolph. Marcia actually first moved to Saddleback Valley in 1973. She served for 20 years as an elementary school teacher in Saddleback Valley Unified School District. She was a veteran of the Foreign War Post 6024, and she was a huge advocate and community activist against the El Toro commercial airport. And she served as the City of Lake Forest as Mayor Pro Tem from 1993. She served as Mayor in 1994. She served on the Board of Directors for Joint Insurance Authority, Board of Trustee for the Orange Vector Control, and alternate to the Orange County Library Board. She served with the Orange County Child Care and Development Planning, and she was a loving mother and adoring grandmother. And so I'd like to adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of her, and please keep her family in your prayers. I was with her on Saturday evening from 9 till 10. Me and my wife stopped by. She was non-responsive, snoring away, and was peaceful. And so 8 hours later, she passed away. So in memory of Marcia Rudolph and her service to the Saddleback Valley through her teachers, her teaching, and as service to our city, I'd like to adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Marcia. Thank you.